Good afternoon once more, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Lavenda Ochieng. I'm a research assistant at the Africa Research and Impact Network, and I welcome you all to today's review session. Our topic today, we're going to discuss about decentralized energy systems, looking at the pathway to bridging the energy deficit in Sub-Saharan Africa. So I just want to introduce the topic briefly before I welcome our speaker, who is Mr. Onyekachi. He's here with us, not she, sorry for that. He's here with us. So just a brief introduction of the topic, talking about decentralization of renewable energy, or rather energy in Africa. We know that the central point of, or the central aspiration of decentralizing energy is to improve the socio-economic development related to environmental outcomes in Africa. And looking at the current situation in Africa, most of the energy systems are centralized in various areas, and this leads to a lot of disruptions. I mean, there are areas of environmental disruptions, even the climate change disruptions and etc. So these disruptions are either intended or unintended. So that's why we need to come up with a solution on how to mitigate this problem, and also have something sustainable as Africa moves towards achieving sustainable development goals.
Now,
Okay, sorry about that. Peter, kindly just mute. So we really need a solution towards our actions, looking at the just transitioning, as well as achieving the sustainable development goals, especially the SDG 7 of clean and affordable energy. So decentralization can deliver simultaneous gains, as we all know, looking at the climate justice, looking at the energy justice. So when we rely on decentralization, we addresses the limitation of central energy systems, as well as looking at the disruption, the way I've said, we can create the efficiencies through reducing the energy losses, as well as looking at the distances that we need to transmit this energy to various places, and also knowing that the central energy systems mostly depend on the fossil fuels. So when we look at the decentralized system, they are mostly the renewables, and this will help in combating the climate change issues that we're experiencing today. So most countries in Africa, we have vast, enormous reserves of renewables, and the increased decentralization, even the grids, or even the increased grid decentralization will help to uptake at the different scales, and together with effective mechanisms for participatory, we can achieve or we can increase the access and reduce the energy poverty in Africa. And also we can also look at the socio-economic poverty, which we will need to address through decentralization process. So I want to welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Onyekachi Nwafor, that's the name. He is a renewable energy specialist in the field of energy transitioning, with a strong passion for sustainability and driving a transition towards low carbon economy, with a wealth of experience in various areas or aspects of industries. He has various experience in electrification, in energy storage, in renewable energy project, etc. So currently, Mr. Onyekachi is the executive director of Katex Power. This is a renewable energy company in Lagos, Nigeria. So Mr. Onyekachi, welcome. Take us through your presentation. Just a point of correction, or rather a concern, in case you're joining us or you may be having your issues, kindly just ensure that you muted. Don't click unmute button mistakenly, so that we can have a smooth session. Okay, so Mr. Onyekachi, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Lavenda, for that introduction. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. All right, thank you. Can you see it again now?
Yes, I can see it again. Just put it in presentation mode.
Yeah.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Is it okay?
No, it's back. I don't know what happened. Take it back.
Hold on. Please give me a minute. Let me try and fix it.
That's fine.
Okay. Is it okay now? Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see it, but okay, just go ahead.
You can see the screen.
Yes, but it is not in the presentation mode though. I don't know if I can help you share it from my side.
Okay, maybe you can, please.
Okay, let me do that.
So let me stop sharing so it can help me. Thank you. Okay, I think I can start the presentation. So you just help me to be taking the slide to the next slide each time I tell you to do so.
That's fine.
Okay. So hi everyone. Thank you so much for being part of today's Friday review. I'm excited to be facilitating today's topic because it's something I consider very critical. Just like Lavender have mentioned, my name is Onyekachi Nwafor. I'm the CEO of Katex Power. And what we do in Katex Power is that we provide sustainable energy services to off-grid and underserved communities. And we are passionate in bridging the energy deficit gap in Nigeria. And the topic we'll be considering today, or we'll be discussing today, is the decentralized energy system as a key solution to bridging the energy deficit gap in Sub-Saharan Africa. Can go to the next slide. Okay, thank you. The slide is not so clear, by the way, that I can be explaining, maybe for others to take a good view of it. So, as you all know, that Sub-Saharan Africa is facing an enormous challenge when it comes to energy access. Because based on statistics from World Bank and International Energy Agency, over 600 million people in this region still lack access to electricity. And when we consider the total population in Sub-Saharan Africa is over 1 billion. So the number of people that still does not have access to electricity constitutes to 57% of the entire population. And this has severely hampered the economic growth, the social development, and the quality of life in this region. The traditional centralized energy system that we all know for the national grid has struggled to meet this growing energy demand, and this has left many people in this region in darkness. You can go to the next slide. Okay, this is the overview, please. So please go to the next slide. Okay, here is the introduction. So just I was saying that over 600 million people in Sub-Saharan Africa still lack access to electricity, and this has hampered economic growth in the region. The centralized energy system that we all know that comes from national grid has been a very big challenge because it has struggled to meet the energy needs of the people, especially people living in the off-grid or remote areas. The former United Nations Secretary, Kofi Annan, have stated that the centralized energy system has often failed to reach rural underserved communities. His argument has been that the centralized energy system, especially using renewable energy sources like solar and wind, will offer more effective solution to providing energy access to those people in need. He continued to say that the current centralized energy system has not been successful in delivering modern energy to the world's poor people, especially people in the rural area. And as it's not affordable and it's not so sustainable. So the future actually lies in centralized energy solutions, such as the solar power. And this can be brought to people in rural areas as quickly as possible. So today I'm going to explore how this decentralized energy system can play a transformative role in assessing this challenge. Please go to the next slide. So I will start by explaining what's the decentralized energy system. A centralized energy system are often known as a localized energy solution, such as the microgrids, the solar home system, and off-grid technologies that do not rely on the large centralized grids that we are often used to. This system will always leverage on renewable energy sources like the solar, the wind, the small-scale hydropower to provide sustainable and more often affordable electricity solution. Centralized energy systems are designed to generate and distribute electricity near the point of use rather than relying on the large centralized power plant and the extensive transmission network. For instance, when you take a look at the solar home system, it can power the entire household without requiring connection to the national grid. This decentralized energy system has so many advantages, and one of them is rapid deployment, because it can be installed quickly when it compared to the traditional power plant that requires a lot of planning, a lot of instructions, and then getting the regulatory approval for it. It's also scalable, and it's very good to scale because this system can be scaled up or down based on the local demand. For example, the community can start with a few solar home system, and then they can gradually expand to land more households, or maybe they can actually expand to include more households in it, or if there is any additional need that arises. So you also have minimal disruption because the centralized system, which can be integrated into the local communities with minimal disruption, as they require less land and infrastructure than the centralized system, and this makes them more adaptable to local conditions. It also creates energy independence because when a community is generating their own electricity, they can now reduce their reliance on external energy sources and enhance energy security and resilience against the price fluctuation and supply disruptions. It's also affordable because the decentralized system will provide more affordable electricity solutions, especially in areas. Okay, I can continue. So I'm talking about affordability. The decentralized system can be more affordable because in those rural areas, when you talk about extending the national grid, it will be very, very expensive. And the business models such as the pay-as-you-go model for solar home system will always allow the households in those areas to access energy without the large upfront cost that is associated to it. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. The impact on Sub-Saharan Africa. These decentralized energy systems are not just a technological solution. They are also key enablers for rural education and economic empowerment. Let me share this example. Rural electrification through decentralized system represents a significant advantage in addressing energy poverty in those rural areas. This transformation has far-reaching implications for economic development, the social progress, and overall quality of life. Let me give you a detailed exploration of how the decentralized solar system can be able to provide access to electricity in rural areas. One of them is when it comes to the historical concept, the context of it. These rural areas in many developing countries has always been neglected in terms of infrastructure, infrastructure, and also in development. So the high cost associated with extending decentralized grid to those remote areas has left millions of people in those areas without access to electricity. The decentralized solution, which includes the solar home system, community solar projects, has come out as a very good alternative because this system can be deployed quickly and tailored to the specific needs of these rural communities, providing them with reliable electricity. The second aspect is that it has also provided the basic services that has enabled electrification, such as lighting, because access to electricity has allowed households to use electric lighting, which significantly improves safety and quality of life in those areas. The families living there can engage in activities after sunset, such as sporting, such as cooking, and socializing, which we are previously limited by darkness. Another thing it can also provide is economic development opportunities. For example, the small business there can, like the small business such as the shops, the people selling food stores and workshops, those people can operate longer hours using the electric appliances, and this can improve their productivity, leading to increased jobs and income as well. I also want to talk about social empowerment and community development because the implementation of the decentralized energy system often involves local communities in the planning and then the management processes. And this fosters a sense of ownership and empowerment as community members will be actively be part of the decision of this project. Please go to the next slide. So let's take a case study. And this case study we are going to is going to kind of illustrate a transformative impact of the centralized energy system in rural communities. And we'll be looking at Kenya and Nigeria. This example will highlight how obvious solutions have addressed energy access challenges, improved living standards, and stimulated economic growth. When it comes to Kenya, when we look at Kenya, Kenya has faced a long significant energy access challenges, particularly in rural areas where the decentralized grid has limited reach. When it comes to statistics from the International Energy Agency, about 75% of the rural population in Kenya lack access to electricity, although this report is from 2020. And this lack of access has also hindered economic development, education, and healthcare services in those areas. And what are the implementation? The solar home systems. In Kenya, various organizations and companies have introduced solar home systems in those rural organizations, which has allowed households to generate their own electricity. This solar home system is simply a system that uses solar panels, batteries for energy storage, and inverters to convert DC to direct current to magnetic current power. We also have the community solar power, which is in addition to the solar home system. This has also been established in those communities where multiple households share a larger solar installations. And this model has been solely useful in reducing the cost and increasing access to electricity for more families. What is the impact on this community through this system? It has provided access to basic services. Because with electricity, rural communities can power homes, schools, and healthcare centers, and this has led to improved lighting, refrigeration, and communication, and has significantly enhanced the quality of life. Another one is education, because where schools have been equipped with solar power, and this has provided lighting for classrooms, enabling students to study after dark. Also, it has also made access to technology such as the computers and educational resources, and has improved the educational outcome of those communities. Another impact is in the aspect of healthcare. The healthcare centers can now operate essential medical equipment. They can store vaccines, they can provide lighting for nighttime emergencies. And this has led to better health outcome and increased access to healthcare services. It has also contributed to economic growth because the availability of electricity in those areas has enabled the small businesses to thrive. The entrepreneurs there can operate longer hours, unlike before when during the night they have to close their shop because the whole place is dark, using the electrical appliances, and these are also improved their productivity. When we look at the success stories from various companies that have helped this initiative, like the Nkoba Solar, which is one of the leading companies in Kenya, that have provided about 1 million solar energy system to operate households in Kenya. Their model, which is the pay as you go, has allowed families to access solar power without paying the land upfront cost, and this has made it affordable to low-income households. They have also been involved in community engagement in their approach because their project has involved communities planning for it and implementing the process, and this has fostered a sense of ownership and empowerment. Then we also look at Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the largest population in Africa. We have a population of over 200 million people. However, based on statistics, over 85 million of Nigerians do not have access to electricity, and this constitutes to about 47% of the entire population. The centralized grid has also struggled to meet the growing energy demand, and this has led to frequent outages and limited access. One of the adaptation in Nigeria has been solar home system. This has gained a traction in Nigeria because it has provided households, especially people living in remote areas, with reliable source of electricity. The solar home system, just like I said, is a system that comes with solar panels, the battery, the LED lightings, and this has allowed the families to have access to essential lightings and also power their basic equipment. Another approach that has been introduced in it is innovative financial model, because we have companies, various solar energy companies like the solar, like Illumos Electricity, the Katex Power, even Katex Power will provide a pay-as-you-go financial means, and this has enabled those households to pay for solar power as they consume it. And when we look at this approach, it has helped to reduce the financial burden on families and make solar energy accessible to the low-income households. The impact this has created is that it has improved living standards, because access to electricity has actually led to improvement in living standards. Families can now use electric lighting, they can now charge their phones, they can now power their small devices, contributing to their overall well-being. It has also created economic opportunities because more businesses can now operate long hours using electric tools to improve their productivity. For example, when we look at the solar power refrigerators, it can allow the food vendors to store perishable goods, reducing waste and increasing profit. In addition, it has also provided education and connectivity because schools has been equipped with solar power, and this has provided lighting for classroom, and for students, when they go back to their house, they can be able to study during the dark hour. And then access to internet as well, it has also improved, and this has allowed students and entrepreneurs to connect with educational resources and the market. The success stories has often come when the success stories from organizations like Lumos Nigeria, which has installed thousands of solar home systems across Nigeria and have provided electricity to households and small businesses. Also, a organization, Katex Power, also recorded a couple of success stories in those communities that we always reach out to. It has always been that their overall economic well-being has greatly improved, because we are not just providing power to the community, we are also recruiting sales agents, which is part of the community members, to become our sales agents, distributing our solar home system to each household. And we don't just employ them, we also carry out training, capacity training, so that they can be able to know how this product works. So it has helped them to have a kind of source of livelihood. Another thing is that those people living in the village or in those communities, such as market women, can now generate more incomes because they can now stay longer hours in generating income. Please go to the next slide. Yes, we also have challenges scaling the decentralized energy system. Although this has been a promising solution to improve the energy assets in Sub-Saharan Africa, there have been a lot of challenges that have mitigated their widespread adoption. And understanding these challenges is very crucial, because when we understand the challenges that are being faced, it can be able to help us to develop effective strategies that can promote this sustainable energy solution across those regions. So one of the challenges is the initial investment cost, the high upfront cost, because the capital that is required to purchase and install this decentralized energy system, like the solar home system or the mini grid, the are treasures to those people living in the area, because those people there, they are often categorized as a low income household. So despite the long-term cost saving associated with this system, the initial financial investment remains a significant barrier to this many low-income households and communities. And the impact this has created is the affordability issues, because many rural households with limited financial resources may not be able to afford the upfront cost of the solar home system. And this will make them to rely on traditional energy sources like the kerosene lamp or the candles, perpetuating energy poverty. Another thing is the need for financing solution. And that's another impact, because innovative financing models such as the microloan, the pay as you go services, and community funding services can help mitigate these challenges. Although it can actually help mitigate these challenges. But however, access to the credit and the financing option has remained limited to many rural areas. One of the instances I would give that some rural areas, when we visit, we understand that we are providing a flexible payment plan for them to be able to make the payments. But at the same time, when we pay the income they generate on monthly basis, we also find out that even with that same income generating, they will not be able to pay it within the space of 6 months or 12 months that we provide for them. So this has been a very big challenge. The second challenge is also technical expertise, because skill levelers is often needed to do the setting up, to operate it, or even to maintain those systems. And unfortunately, these skills are often scarce in those areas because there is no, or because the access to training or formal education in those areas is often limited. The impact it has created is the maintenance challenges, because without necessary technical expertise, the system will often face operational issues, it will face failures, and this will lead to downtime and decreased reliability. I can give you so many instances where when we go to some rural communities, we want to train chief agents. It is always difficult to bring them to the knowledge of what we are doing, because they don't have a basic education or formal education. And if they don't actually have that formal education, it is difficult for you to enlighten them about how to install solar panels, how to do all the basic installation guidelines is actually difficult. And when you don't have such people, you know that the maintenance will become a problem because our office is located in the city. So we need people that will be in those areas that can facilitate maintenance in case if there is any downtime. And this will lead to the second impact, which is dependence on external technicians. Since there is nobody that can be able to facilitate the maintenance in such areas, the external technicians have to come from a very far place they are to do the maintenance, and sometimes it is time consuming and can lead to downtime. The next thing is regulatory barriers, because there are often been inconsistent regulations from government, from distribution, and this has hampered investment into the renewable energy projects. One of the impact this has created is the aspect of complex licensing process. Sometimes when we want to obtain the necessary permits and license, the whole process becomes absolutely difficult and consuming, and it can discourage you from even proceeding with the project you want to do. You want to do a mini grid in a community, and you know that it's going to create a tangible impact. You need to get a permit or a license to be able to do mini grid installation. And sometimes the policies involved, the processes involved are so difficult for some of us developers to carry on. And this can end up delaying the project implementation. And then the next one is also the aspect of integration. The impact this can also cause in aspect of regulatory barriers is integration with the national grids. Because sometimes the regulation does not support the integration of the centralized system into the national grids. And this has limited the potential for hybrid solutions that can actually combine the centralized system and centralized energy source. This also reduces the overall system bias. Most of the time, the electricity distribution agent network will not want to work with some of the developers when they want to do their project in those rural areas. They just want to be on their own, and with that, there's no way you can create a hybrid system where you can integrate the decentralized energy system to the existing centralized energy system. The next thing I also want to talk about as part of the challenges have been the financial sustainability and the business model. Because while we have financial models like pay as you go service, which have actually gained the popularity, the overall sustainability in the decentralized energy system will actually rely heavily on the viable business model that can support the continuous operation and maintenance. So the impact this can cause is the revenue generation, because the centralized energy system need to generate enough revenue to cover the cost of the operation, also the maintenance cost, and this can be challenging because when you put this pay as you go model, you find out that your balance is often negative, although you can still operate after a long period of time. But for the initial beginning, it is often maybe zero or negative while you wait for the consumers to pay up within a space of 6 months or 12 months that you get them to pay it up. So the revenue generation is often very slow or very challenging to those companies. The next slide, please. So we are going to be looking at the strategies in overcoming these challenges. What are the strategies? One of them has to be a public and private partnership. Because when you collaborate with governments, with NGOs, with private companies, they can be able to fund and implement these projects. The other one that's also critical is the government policy, there is need to establish a policy support because government play a critical role in shaping the energy landscape. They can help to create and promote policies that can favor decentralized energy solutions. And this is very essential for attracting investment and also facilitating implementations. The key approaches whereby the government can create a good policy is one of them is through incentive and subsidies. Providing financial incentives like the grant, tax breaks, or low interest loan for solar system and other renewable energy initiatives will lower the barrier to entry and also encourage the adoption among communities and businesses. Another thing they can help out is to streamline the permitting processes. They need to simplify the necessary permitting and licensing processes for renewable energy projects so that it can reduce the delays and encourage more rapid deployment. Another thing that also is important is innovative financial model, access to capital, because traditional model often do not have adequate. The traditional financing model do not adequately serve the low-income household and rural communities. So there is need for an innovative financial mechanism so that they can be able to have access to this system in a very flexible and affordable way. And the key approaches has always been the pay-as-you-go services that allow users to purchase the solar home system in a small, affordable instrumental payment rather than having to pay the upfront payment. This approach will remove the financial barriers for the low-income households and increase their accessibility to renewable energy. Another thing we can also consider is the need for capacity training, capacity building. Because when you establish knowledge on those people living in the community, it can be able to help them. Just like I have mentioned that when they don't have knowledge about the basic maintenance practices, the system will remain unsustainable. So there is need for them to be trained. So the approach has to be having a training program for those local technicians on basic installations, the maintenance, and also troubleshooting of those solar systems and other renewable energy systems. Providing workshops, professional trainings, and then partnering with educational institutions to facilitate such knowledge transfer. Another approach I can use to facilitate this capacity training is through awareness campaign, informing the communities about the benefits of renewable energy and also how they can leverage these technologies and drive adoption and encourage local people in keying to the projects. Please go to the next slide. So in conclusion, the centralized energy system stands out as one of the most promising solutions for achieving universal access to energy, especially in Sub-Saharan Africa. For this region faces significant energy challenges, yet many people still lack access to reliable electricity. The centralized energy system which includes solar home system, microgrids, and other renewable energy technologies are very flexible, sustainable, and they are also rapidly deployable as an alternative to the traditional grid expansion. Let's look at the deeper exploration on the implications and the benefit of adoption of this system. One of them is flexibility and adaptability. The centralized system can be customized to meet the system needs of diverse communities, taking into account of local resources, energy demands, and socio-economic conditions. This adaptability allows for solutions that are more relevant and effective in addressing the local energy challenges. The second one is sustainability and environmental benefits. It is very sustainable and it relies because it's actually relies on renewable energy sources like the solar, like the wind and small scale hydropower, and therefore it encourages the shifting away from fossil fuels and contribute to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, mitigating climate change. It also fosters economic growth and empowerment, because when it comes to job creation, the deployment of decentralized energy system we can stimulate local economics by creating jobs when we recruit local sales agents in those communities. It helps create jobs for them because they can be able to carry out the installations, the maintenance, and as well as the operation of those systems. Overall, it's also improved the health and overall quality of life in those communities. The centralized energy system enhances access to critical services like the healthcare, education, clean water. Electrified, when we look at hospitals that are electrified, they can provide better healthcare, while school can offer improved learning education. It also promotes resilience and energy security, because the centralized energy system reduces the reliance on centralized grids and fossil fuel imports, and encourages energy security for those communities. When these communities generate their own electricity, communities can now better understand external shocks such as price fluctuation and supply disruption. It has also been an effective tool in bridging the energy deficit gap, because the widespread and adoption of decentralized energy solutions has been very crucial for bridging energy deficit gap in Sub-Saharan Africa. By providing electricity to these underserved and remote areas, this system can help to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 7 and provide universal access to electricity by 2030. Therefore, I will end by this, that the transition to decentralized energy system presents a transformative opportunity for the Sub-Saharan Africa. Because when we harness these local sources and empower communities, this system will drive economic growth, improve living standards, and create more resilient and sustainable energy future for these regions. The benefit of the decentralized energy system extend beyond mere access to electricity. They encompass environmental sustainability, health improvement, and economic empowerment. Thank you so much for your time. I will welcome any question.
Thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. Honestly, that was really insightful. And the key takeaway home is decentralized energy is the way for Africa. Decentralized energy is key to achieving universal energy access in Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you so much, Onyekachi. So at this time, I want to open the floor for everyone in case you're having a question, a comment, or just an addition to that presentation. The floor is open. Feel free to unmute, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll notice you. Someone is talking? Kanyangi, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that brilliant presentation. And your presentation is quite timely, you know, and thought-provoking, especially when you think of how our rural towns' local economy can leverage clean, decentralized energies. You know, its impact is projected to avail things to do with clean cooking energy alternatives to households and businesses. And most importantly, your presentation is aligned to SDG 7, that it is on, you know, modern and sustainable energy for all, especially those outside the national grid, such as our rural towns and homes. So I have two questions. You touched on them lightly. Maybe if you could just delve into them. So, number one, with regards to policy barriers, that hampers green energy investments and transition, if I may put it that way. So, what efforts, do you believe Sub-Saharan Africa governments should undertake in creating an inclusive, because also the beneficiaries of these projects, they should be engaged in this process. So, what efforts can Sub-Saharan governments undertake in creating an inclusive regulatory environment that encourages investment in these decentralized energy solutions, while also ensuring affordability for most vulnerable populations. My second question is with regards to sustainability of these noble cause. So what are some of the strategies that can be put to use in ensuring such projects are sustainable, and most importantly, they are scalable, so that they can attract more investments from our various development partners and also our local investors? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. So for the first question, the effort the government can play in bringing an inclusive policy framework that can favor this approach is one of them can be bringing incentives and subsidies like grants and tax break and low interest loan to some of these projects. This is going to lower the barriers to the entry, and it is also going to encourage the adoption of this project among communities and business developers and as well as investors as well. Another thing is, just like I said before, is the streamlining the permitting process. When you make the permitting process very rigorous, the whole process very rigorous, most developers and most investors will see this process as a cumbersome thing for them to dive in, and they will just at the point get discouraged. So they need to actually provide a clear guideline and a supportive regulatory environment that will facilitate a smoother project initiation and execution. Another thing that they can do is to create a long-term energy policies, like developing a coherent national energy strategy that emphasizes renewable energy, which can create stability and predictability for those investors. They have to define a clear goal for energy access and integration of decentralized system into the overall energy mix, which can guide the investment decision. If there's another thing I also believe they can also do is establishing microfinance institution to offer something like the small loans, specifically for energy projects, so that families can invest into it, and then also developers or companies can also see it as a means of carrying out their overall projects. Then another thing can also be community financing initiatives. They have to play a very key role in engaging local communities in financing their energy solutions, maybe through cooperative or collective investment, so that it can foster a sense of ownership and responsibility. Because when you combine this local resource with external funding, it is going to create a sustainable financial model. And then I can also talk about capacity training. Capacity training is also very important because when you invest in training people, training local people in those areas, they can be able to understand what this is all about and they will make them to be involved. Then, if they can also provide a very good public and private partnership, so that the private owners can be able to carry out these projects effectively. There is need for a partnership to be created because most of the challenges that also been the most that also that have affected private companies in carry out the project have been maybe on their own lack of resources on their own to do the project. So there is need for them to create a very good and effective public and private partnership. Then your second question, if I come to your second question, you talk about the sustainability of the normal course. If I will bring it from the context of the whole project in the aspect of sustainability of it, people have often said that most of these renewable energy projects are not reliable because it depends on weather. So if the weather fluctuates, it can distort the overall operation of it. I think in this aspect, the need for technology should be provided. When you have an effective storage system on your solar energy projects, even when there is no sun for a couple of times, but you have effective storage facility, you do what we call, I'm trying to remember the exact name, but in the situation where even if there is no sun for a couple of days, because you have effective storage system that can be able to still generate electricity within those periods, it can also help it to be sustainable. I don't know if that answered your question.
Washington, are you satisfied?
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's very direct. I mean, I won't really add anything to that. Any other question, please? Edna, I can see. Go ahead.
Thank you, Lavender, for this chance.
We lost you, Edna. Okay, seemingly she's having some technical challenges. Jim. Jim?
Hi, Lavender.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. So thank you very much. I joined this review very late, though this is a topic that I really like and something that I'm working on. So I might not have much to say, but thanks for the presentation. It's a great one. I think maybe we will take time again to review it and maybe discuss if there's anything that comes to mind that they're doing, that we're working on that together. Thanks.
Okay, Jim, thank you for that comment. Looking at the chat section, I can see one more question from Peter. Peter, is it possible you just unmute? Peter?
Hi, Lavender.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, though you're a bit low. Louder, please.
Am I louder now?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm in the office. No, I also joined late, but I was just thinking as the presenter was making the presentation, and thanks for the presentation. My simple thinking was, if now in his conclusion, for example, we advocate for solar energy, for example, do you think the Sub-Saharan African government will be able to support that initiative? Because I just look at a case in Uganda, the government gets a lot of money from hydro because they cannot actually get the revenue. But in a case where the panels are installed in individual homestead. Do you think government will buy the idea of embarking to invest in solar energy, which doesn't return revenue? So that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Peter, for that question. Yeah, it is. This is a very good observation, and it has actually posed a lot of challenge because the government in Sub-Saharan Africa has often relies on external sources for investment. They have often relies on external sources, and it's a very big challenge because if those investment is not coming, that means it is not financially sustainable. However, the fact that there is a challenge in the Sub-Saharan Africa and those governments are actually under pressure to provide electricity to these off-grid and underserved communities, and a lot of policy framework and recommendation has been given to them for the need to embrace solar energy because this can be cost effective. Most of them are inviting to it, but they're making their own direct investment is a difficult thing for some government. But what they do to support this is that most of the way they have shown their own commitment is that they have provided subsidies. They are trying to bring tax incentive, and also they are trying to bring policies that can promote this solar adoption. So that is just it.
Okay, thank you. Maybe just to add something on that, I would love to tackle it from a different angle. We all know that most countries in Africa, we have different reserves of renewables. Like looking at Kenya is leading in geo, North Africa is leading in solar, and sort of. So most countries, when they really want to leverage on the various resources, they will look at the NPV, the net present value of these resources, looking at the cost benefit of each, and they will always choose that resource that has the positive NPV. So probably that's why Uganda is leveraging on hydro, and other countries maybe are thinking of solar. So ideally, the hydros can have the mini grids, not the mini grids, but the mini hydros that can be located in various regions, the dams and everything, just to also support in energy supply. Yeah. So yes, the government is doing its own part, but again, there's that thing, the cost benefit aspect that comes in when choosing the type of resource to invest in. Jamar, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Lavender, and thank you, Onyekachi, for this awesome presentation. Maybe mine is just to add, based on the question that Peter asked, because if you look in terms of how we develop like appropriate solutions for different regions, because the urban and the rural like areas have different like population density, and I think population density directly now relates to consumption. And if you look at the rural areas, because they're sparsely populated and most of them like they are far in I would say like mountainous or hilly areas, and now building like extending the grid to such kind of area becomes much more expensive. Because if you look at Kenya currently, like they put the average of extending the grid like per household to be around, I think, $2,000. That is the grid, extending the grid, the whole cost of it, not the cost that the consumer will pay, but the cost of the infrastructure. And if you look, for example, if you try to do a mini grid, it will be around half the price. So even the government, like they are aware in terms of, because they have the models and they already like mapped out which regions will be appropriate for the grid extension, which regions will be appropriate for mini grids, and which regions maybe will be appropriate for solar home systems. Because again, if you look at the last mile project, for example, for Kenya, how we did it, they extended the grid everywhere, which was costly to the government. And now these people that receive this electricity, they are not consuming. So this ends like in, we call, is it bad debt to Kenya Power? Because the infrastructure, the cost that they use to set up the infrastructure cannot be returned back through consumption of electricity. Most of them, because they don't have any kind of economic activity to use for the electricity, they're just using it for lighting, the basic charging, phone charging, and that is it. So it becomes much more like expensive, even extending the grid, even if it comes from your cheapest source, maybe hydro or geothermal for Kenya. So like designing and mapping out proper solutions would be much more ideal for different like regions. And that's why you'll see we try to integrate all these kind of solutions to be able to ensure universal like energy access, because just the grid won't be that effective. So that's just my contribution.
Thanks, Jamar. So the aspect of cost and benefit is coming up strongly. Kanyangi, I can see you raised your hand again. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I just want to build on Jamar's.
You're a bit low.
You can hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, great. I just want to build on Jamar's point with regards to generation of power, yet people are not utilizing that power. So that's where feasibility studies are very key, you know, because production and generation of power need to match the power demand, you know. So that's where feasibility study comes in, needs assessment studies come in. Then again, with regards to financing decentralized energy initiatives, I just want to say that that these initiatives should be packaged, you know, in such a way that it can attract attention from the climate finance, from the international climate finance mechanisms, you know, without worsening the debt burdens that low-income countries are already experiencing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That is very direct and well understood. Thank you all for that contribution. Gogo, I can see you. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, I think the presentation, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Nwafor, for the presentation. It has been well. This is an informative session where we learn new ideas and new technologies and on how things also work on some of the aspects that people across the globe are doing. So mine is just it's not a question, but just a comment on the work and encourage each and everyone to partake and also support where we can, also and how.
And how we lost you on how?
Sorry?
We lost you when you're saying something on how?
Oh, on how the different capacities that we have can be built together so that we can help each other achieve on our areas of interest.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Gogo. Okay, so I think time is much spent. I don't know if I'm leaving someone behind. If not, I'll welcome Charles. Charles, if you can hear me. Charles. In case you're talking just now, we can't hear you.
Apologies, Salam, Lavenda. I'm transitioning, but I don't know if it's noisy.
We can hear you though. Just give us the closing remarks.
Okay, yes. Thank you so much for the presentation. I partly followed very keenly. And I think the most important thing is to look at energy from the mitigation and adaptation perspective, and then delineate especially the mitigation and adaptation contribution, because most of the countries now are decentralizing programs and also partly policies. For instance, the case of Kenya, where we have already 47 devolved units, which are autonomous, so they are mandated to implement renewable energy programs, of course, under the mix. The micro programs are implemented by the county governments, but the macro programs are still retained at the national level. Now, how do we delineate now, especially the mitigation and adaptation aspects from both programs at the multi-level, which actually is quite complex. So your presentation gives us an eye-opener in terms of, as we look at energy transition or just transition in Africa, where climate adaptation is a priority, and we're looking at energy as an enabler, then we have to look at it from the research perspective, program perspectives, to look at how do we integrate also the different disciplines, because it's not a one discipline sector or approach, but it affects also all sectors. We look at the renewable energy, the livestock sector is there, the agroforestry sector is there, the hydro system, the water sector is there. So it will be paramount to really co-develop a multidisciplinary approach toward centralized energy systems in Africa. So thank you so much for the presentation, and I hope the PowerPoint presentation will be uploaded, and also the recording. And let's build on, maybe next time also we look at some of your perspectives. Now, when you're looking at the Agenda 2063, because when you look at the conversation, the Agenda 2063 came before the SDGs and also the Paris Agreement and the sustainable energy for all. So how do we really operationalize at the regional level, but also looking at the national and also the subnational? So thank you so much on behalf of the ARIN Network Fellows. Really appreciate your presentation, and also the audience for really coming in and feeding into the program, the Friday review. Thank you so much, and have a blessed weekend. I can't hear you, Lavenda.
Sorry. Thank you, Charles, for that closing remark. At this time, I want to request everyone to turn on their cameras so that we can take the last photo. Of course, if you're comfortable. Yeah, so Nancy, if you can hear us, when you're ready, let us know. And you can give a broad smile. It's Friday. Edna, kindly smile. Smiler, we can see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Nancy,
thank you so much.
Nancy, when you're ready, let us know.
Yeah.
Nancy?
Lavender, I've just finished taking the screenshot.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining this review. I really want to thank you. I thank you, the speaker. May God bless you. I really don't take your time for granted. So may you have a very wonderful and fantastic weekend ahead. Let's touch base next week, same time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.
Goodbye.